Batman the Outsiders, issue 11, Brian Emberhill writing with Dexter Soy on the art. The little book that could, because I feel like, when this started, it felt like, oh, maybe this won't be that important, maybe that won't be, be that, feel that necessary or whatever. I have continuously liked this more and more with each passing issue.
You know what? And it's not important, and it's kind of in its own little corner, and I want to keep it that way.
Oh, sure. Maybe important was the wrong word to use, but the point I was being is it didn't feel like it was something that needed to be read. Whereas...
No. Yeah, and that's why I like it, because we're getting all these little interpersonal relationships. Like, here, Batman and Sophia have their entire story in this issue is a discussion of Sophia needing to be who she needs to be, right? Like, don't let anybody else tell you who you're going to be. Yeah. And like, I like that happens with Batman, right? And his actual expertise in dealing with younger heroes.
Yeah, it's
trying to fit a mold.
Ultimately, it's him taking her to what used to be a Court of Owls base in the sewers, and saying, "Hey, try and mold what you want going to be." And there's a lot of like spare parts of different costumes and weapons, and he's like, "No, like, who do you want to be to the world? Like, you get to pick who you are." So this is kind of her becoming whatever she's going to be superhero-wise, essentially. And then the rest of the issue, of course, is the big fight that we had the cliffhanger for last issue, which is when, Jefferson and Shiva were attacked by the squad from Raz, which was Karma and Ishmael and Caliber, and I think there was one more. I want to say there was one more. No, maybe not. Maybe it was just three of them. But, and we have, like, the cavalry shop with Cass and Duke. And Katana, and we get this big fight, and it's a pretty great big fight with lots of, I think there's a lot of great moments in here. Shiva kind of allies herself with everyone else, which is kind of cool. Cass basically, after taking a hit or two, ends up wiping the floor with one of them. The art here was great. Like, I think it's like a double kick she does to Karma. It's just this beautiful moment. I will say, do you know something that's really starting to bug me in comics, though? And this book's guilty of it. Young Justice was guilty of it this week, and I feel like every single week there's at least 2 or 3 books that are guilty of this. It's a character saying, "I have this," or "we have this." That line is overused to such a degree that it's really starting to stick out to me.
I mean, that's fair. But I do with these characters, though. They seem so separate. How do you say that word? So for them to come together, especially like with Shiva, there too, and her.
Oh yeah, Shiva basically says afterwards, like, I want you to love me again, so I will align myself to your cause, to Cass. So Shiva is at least going to try and pretend to be a good character for a while. Right,
right. So I'm okay with it in certain stuff, but you're right that it happens too much.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and then also Katana cuts off Caliber. Was that Caliber or Ishmael? I get them mixed up. That is Caliber.
Caliber's Cable.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Caliber's arm gets cut off. So.
Well, and then he sets off a bomb throughout the city that takes him away. And he's like, "See, this is what the problem with you superheroes." Another thing that pops up here.
Well, that's not what he says. What he actually says is that Ra's al Ghul's big master plan is to stop things like this from happening, and then he presses a button, and then we see like the next full page spread is like just locations around the city just going off. So this has turned into like a major terrorist incident, and all of a sudden the team's got like, "Shit, we need to get in there and help people." Crap.
Well, yeah, I also like here we're talking about interpersonal stuff here too. Is with Jefferson and talking to Ishmael. He's like, "You killed my friend." He's like, "Well, that's the cost of this here." And him having to... Shiva's like, "Don't hold back. Just let him have it." But Jefferson's like, "No, because then there's no difference between us." And so I like that. I like that Shiva's trying to get him to, just kill him, and it'll be over with, and you'll get your vengeance. But it's not about that. With Black Lightning, it's always been about justice over vengeance. And it's these little small pieces, and that's why I like, the writer here. He's really good at that type of stuff.
Yeah,
the little small moments.
Yeah, Hell's been really solid, and I think he's been getting stronger throughout this book. And then from reading his stuff in Angel, it feels like he's gotten more confident and more refined in how much like text he needs. Because I feel like if you go back to his detective run, I felt like that was maybe a bit wordier than this stuff. And then you read this, and it flows so well. It feels like he's really growing confident in everything he's doing.
Well, and I like that Karma. He shows up, and they're like, "Oh, I think it's Duke." Is like, he fixed your mask, and he's like, "Yeah, through Ra's al Ghul, all things, right?" And then he goes, "Oh yeah," and he unleashes his darkness power. So I thought that was a pretty fun moment, and also, I forget who tells Cass that she's you're not an orphan. You know what I mean? You know, you're just playing up one. Your mother's right there. Like So I also like that too, because she's trying to distance herself. So Shiva coming back in her life is a nice little wrinkle. And so I guess that's the overarching theme of this entire issue is you are who you want to be, not who people tell you are. Because that goes with Sophia and Batman and Black Lightning and, you know, all of them. So you can't always say that with each of the comics we read every week.
So that's like them going off to rush and help everyone in the city. Sophia's picking her armor, and then the other thing we have to mention is that Ra's al Ghul's in Markovia, and we don't really know what he's doing at first. He's kind of like killing people, and he's finding this place in the desert, and ultimately the final page reveals that he essentially has his technodrome. He's got a big war machine thing in the desert. It's kind of, I'd say it looks kind of turtley with its shell. It's got like a shell.
Yeah.
Almost.
But it comes up. Yeah. So Markovia. That's Leviathan now. So where is Markovia? I always thought it's in Eastern Europe, but when you start putting it in this desert-like place where Ra's is,
I was 100% certain Markovia was Eastern Europe until you've just said that.
But yeah, if you go back and look at this, Ra's is going through. It's like not a desert, but more like the steppes, right? Like if you know that geographical feature, like these big, wide open, deserted plains that aren't quite grass. Like it's. So yeah.
Googling it seems to, the consensus apparently is Western Europe. It's located between France, Belgium, and Luxembourg. So I would still not say desert by any means.
No. So that was the one thing too. And in Leviathan Rising, it becomes Leviathan because they sell out.
Yeah, they buy the country, basically.
Right. However, knowing my outsider's history, the fact that he goes to Markovia, and that's where Geoforce is from, that's a nice little nod there. But yeah, it's just wondering where Markovia is meant to be.
But that's not bury the lead here. Ra's al Ghul is a technodrome.
Yeah, but in the deserts of Markovia. So again, let's figure this out. How does a technodrome get there? And where is there exactly?
It can move.
Matt wants logic with his comics, Dan.
It can move.
Well, DC is really good at that, though. Like when it comes to where places are, right?
Yeah, usually it's really consistent and it makes sense. And I don't know if it's just the name Markovia that sounds Eastern European, but I always got that impression. But if you tell me, it's France, Luxembourg, Belgium, I go, okay, sure, it's not that far off.
To me, it was a place that had fallen to the Soviet Union, and then afterwards reclaimed their identity.
It always felt to me like a place they used instead of Ukraine.
Right.
So, I mean, but it's not that far off.
It's got some deserts. No. I mean, it's a fictional country. It's got some deserts. It's fine.
Yeah, but it's like when you have Polynesia, and we see that in Flash, and it's this little island in I think the Indian Ocean or the somewhere around there, right? And then it pops up in Tom Taylor's Suicide Squad, and it was roughly the same. Like, that feels great as a comic fan. So here, I don't know. It's nothing small, but these little things that I fall on.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. Yes, but Raz has got some big master plan to take over the world or whatever with his technodrome. So no, it was like 3 distinct plots. All of them were great. It all looked fantastic. The exercise art is just a joy to look at and read through. So I have very very little complaints about this issue. Honestly, what are you giving it, Matt?
Yeah, I'm gonna give this a solid 8. A lot of good stuff in this one.
I'll go a smidge higher and say 8.5. I'm really digging Batman the Outsiders. It's become one of my sort of low-key, like, most anticipated books every month.